This is the continuation of the Centrex Quirks of '83. Parts of these recordings were sent to Bell Labs in order to get the problems fixed. None of the tricks that we did back in '83, thanks to the bugs, work today. By now, I'm sure you've noticed that the number 1 ESS gives you a lot to listen to as you hear it operate. Because being an analog switch, it was necessary for an actual new physical connection to be made every time there was a change of the line status, and that was very distinctly audible. For example, if I were talking to you locally and I had three-way calling, that sound would be easily recognizable as my flashing and getting a recall dial tone and then coming back to you without having dialed a complete number. Now, in the '70s, it seemed kind of sterile and modern to myself and Ben, and we didn't especially like it. But in retrospect, due to the fact that a new physical connection has to be made every time there's a change of status, it really does make a number of interesting, discernible, and distinctive clicks. Now, of course, that is obviously the most famous example of a number 1 ESS click and clunk, but there are many more things. Hey, do you want to get that? I'll wait. Oh, never mind, they gave up on you. Well, as I was saying, because of these clicks and clunks, you could pretty much tell what the switch was doing, at least as far as switching you around in its own network. Now, the clicks of the 1 ESS actually had some social implications, because every time you would get a call waiting beep, the person you were talking to knew it because they could hear the clicks. This would automatically stop the person from talking in mid-sentence, usually at least, and that was helpful. When the 1 ESSs were replaced with digital switches, the beeps became quiet, and now you actually have to interrupt the person you're talking to say, excuse me, I've got a call. Now, in the mid-1990s, I heard a news story on the radio that said someone had patented a device that imitates the sound of getting a call waiting beep. The device was to be sold to people who wanted to have it handy just in case they needed to use call waiting as an excuse to get off the phone. So now you didn't actually have to have a call waiting. All you had to do was press a button and, oh man, I'm going to have to take this. Let me call you back later. You know, you have to wonder, sometime in the late 90s, early 20s, somebody who was using that device must have gotten questioned by one of his friends. Hey, why is it that when you get a call waiting, it makes a click noise, but nobody else's phone does that? Well, what do you know? There it is. Such a coincidence. Oh, you can explain that to me later. I'll let you take that. Now, here's a quiz. What is this number 1 ESS sound? Well, that really wasn't fair. Actually, that's the sound of an ad infinitum bridge stack dropping.
I think normally it'll work for you.
By bridge, we mean a piece of hardware that was used in the number 1 ESS, which primarily had the function of enabling three-way calls, that is, where one subscriber would talk to two other people at the same time. This was done with an actual piece of hardware that had some amplification and balancing and other such functions in it. And this piece of hardware had 3 ports. We could call them the A side, the B side, and the center. In a number 1 ESS, when a subscriber made a three-way call, the first step was to just make the first call, and during that part of the process, no bridge was employed. Then, when the subscriber would flash his hook to get a recall dial tone, his original call would be put on the A side of one of these bridges. While the subscriber was dialing, he would not be connected to a bridge, but instead would be connected to the CDPR. That's the device that gives you dial tone and receives your digits. Upon completing the dialing of the number, the subscriber would then be connected to the center of that bridge that had been used to hold the original call, and then his new call, the one he's dialing now, would be put on the B side of the bridge. Relays would be operated in the bridge to cut the sound through from the center to the B side. Thus, the subscriber would only hear his second call until he flashed his hook again. And at that point, another relay would be operated so that the center A and B could all hear each other, and that made a three-way call. The three-way bridge was also used in call waiting. Although in the process of a call waiting situation, where the subscriber has 2 calls, the A and the B are never connected to the subscriber at the same time. In regular call waiting, the subscriber's flash indirectly causes relays in the bridge to operate, cutting through the sound from the center to the B side, disconnecting the A side. And then when he flashes again, it's disconnecting the B side and connecting the A side. These are not new connections through the network, but rather are just relays in the bridge operating to change the way the sound is routed. In call hold and call waiting with call hold, the subscriber flashes his hook, gets a recall dial tone, and dials a code. The recall dial tone, of course, comes from a CDPR, so he's off the bridge at that point. But then when he dials the code, he's back on the bridge, and the relays are adjusted in the bridge to switch him to the other side. Again, not by making a new connection in the network, but by just changing the way the sound is routed. Now, as I said, on call waiting and call hold, the A and B are never supposed to be conferenced together, but there was a bug that did cause that to happen. Here's the bug not being any fun, and then we'll get to the fun part. Les is calling me from within the Centrex. Say hello, Les.
Hello, Les.
And in this particular case, it apparently makes no difference what type of call I'm on. I could have called him anywhere, and he could have called me from anywhere. However, if you want to duplicate this exactly, he's calling me from within the Centrex. And now I'm going to get a call waiting beep. And the person who's calling me is in fact calling me from within my office outside of the Centrex. But he really could be calling me from anywhere. Now I'm going to be kind of slow to answer the call, and of course to answer it I'm going to have to flash and then dial the call hold code. And I'm going to be kind of slow to answer it, and I'm going to flash, and just after I flash, but just before I dial the code, the person who's beeping in on me is going to hang up. So, here's what happens. Hello? Hello? Okay, so I've dialed the call hold code, and I am nowhere. There's nobody here, because that party hung up, so let me flash. Flashing gets me nowhere, so now I'm going to hang up for about a second. And there is no call.
Ring.
Now, you didn't hang up on me, did you?
No.
You were just sitting there, and then all of a sudden you got a dial tone, right?
I got a dial tone.
Uh-huh. Just wanted to make sure. Very serious one. Again, it's when the person who's beeping in hangs up after you flash, but before you complete the dialing of the code to answer.
By the way, that takes more than just a second. Okay, I mean, by the time you get the dial tone goes solid, you dial the code and you answer it.
So you're saying it takes more than just a second from flashing to actually getting the call answer?
Yeah, so there's a fairly significant window there for you to be hung up on.
Oh yeah, it's real likely. The mishap you just witnessed is caused by a cool bug called Funny Mode. That was our name for it. In this case, all it does is cause you to lose the call. But in parts 2, 3, and 4, you'll hear me using Funny Mode to do some interesting things with the phone. Then, at the end of part 4, you'll hear Funny Mode ruining my whole day. There were 2 ways to invoke Funny Mode, and the first way is demonstrated here. First, I'm going to call a number that goes to low tone. Now I'm going to put this on hold. Now I'm going to call a local time number. And now I'm going to go back to the other side. Now that battery drop corresponded to the time number going off hook. Now I can flash and get a dial tone right now, and the ESS knows that there's another call over there. So I'm going to flash and get my dial tone. And I'm starting to dial a long-distance number that goes to a Jane recording. Now I'm going to not dial the last digit until I'm sure that that time number I called has hung up and timed out. Now when I got this dial tone, there was another call over there. But now that it's timed out, there isn't. And watch what happens when I dial the last digit.
I'm sorry, The number you have reached is not in service at this time. If you need assistance, please hang up and dial directory assistance. This is a recording from Meadville, Pennsylvania. I'm sorry, the number you have reached is not in service at this time.
So I've got 2 calls up already, and I'm getting another dial tone. This time I'm calling a busy signal. So we had the first 2 calls there. Now let's see what happens this time. Okay, now I've got call number 1 and call number 3. I'm going to flash again.
This is a recording from Meadville, Pennsylvania. I'm sorry, the number you have reached is not in service. If you need assistance...
Now I've got all 3 calls. Going to flash one more time.
This is a recording from Meadville, Pennsylvania. I'm sorry, the number you have reached is not in
Now
service.
call 3 is gone and I've only got 1 and 2. And now when I flash, I'm stuck.
Directory assistance. This is a recording from Pennsylvania. I'm sorry, the number you have reached is not in service at this time.
Now, there are a few things about this that are quite noteworthy. The first thing that's rather strange is that 2 calls get conferenced without my having to flash my hook switch to bridge them. Actually, it occurs right after I dial the last digit of a phone number, here.
I'm sorry, the number you have reached is not in service at this time.
That's 2 calls bridged with no flash to bridge them. And it happened again here. And then there was the 4-way call, that is, 3 calls coming off of 1 phone line.
This is a recording from Meadville, Pennsylvania.
And so that's why we called it funny mode. Once you got into funny mode, the next call you dialed would be handled as if you had used call hold, even though you didn't dial the call hold code. But it would do it in such a way that the A side was brought into your connection. That's why you'd hear it immediately after you dialed the last digit of the number. You could then make a 3-way call on the B side of your call hold bridge with the A side conferenced in anyway, and that resulted in the 4-way call and explains everything that happened on that last example, except for the thing at the end where we got trapped.
I'm sorry.
Now that, where we couldn't get a recall dial tone, is a manifestation of the unwanted bridge bug, which I'll explain later on. Let's go to a 1985 recording of Funny Mode, in which a different method is used to get into it.
Long distance.
All right, I'm now recording. This is, June 85. If you'll hold on a minute, Les, I will get in funny mode.
Okay.
The number you have reached, 8.
All right, what I just did was I got a recall dial tone, dialed my call hold code, then called AIS in my own office. Then when the AIS started talking, I hung up and rang back to you. And you can tell from the sound of things that that bridge is there. Say hello, Les.
Hello, Les.
Okay, I'm now going to make a rather odd 3-way call, and when you hear me completing the dialing of the number, will you be sure to say hello so as to point out that I don't have to bridge back to put you on the line?
Yes, indeed.
So as soon as you hear me come back, say hi there or something.
Hello.
Pick the number and dial again, or call your operator to help you. This is a recording.
Okay, as we can see, everybody's here, right?
All right.
Okay, now I'm going to separate you two.
We're sorry, your call cannot...
By having gotten a recall dial tone and dialed my call hold code, I now have just you.
Just me.
We had a 3-way call. I've now split it. Now, hang on, I'll go get just Jane.
Dialed. Please check the number and dial again, or call your operator to help you. This is a recording.
Les, are you there? Of course not. All right, very good. Now, I can't hang up and ring back to the other party. So let me call you, Les, right back.
The ability to split an existing three-way call into two separate calls did not exist in the 1980s in the public switch network, unless you did it this way. However, once you did do this, splitting a three-way call into two separate calls, you'd get into a state where you could not disconnect either of the two calls without losing the other one, and even if one of those calls disconnected by itself, it would cause you to lose the other one. Here's a tape of having set up another funny mode three-way call, except I've got a low tone there instead of less. I demonstrate splitting the call and then trying to disconnect one call by hanging up on it and ringing back to the other.
I'm sorry, the number you have reached is not in service at this time. If you need assistance, please hang up and dial directory assistance. This is a recording from...
There I was on an unusual three-way call, and I'm now flashing and dialing the call hold code, and here's what happens. No Jane. I'm going to flash and dial the call hold code again.
Directory assistance. This is a recording from Meadville, Pennsylvania. I'm sorry, the number you have reached is not in service at this time. If you need assistance, please hang up and dial directory assistance. This is a recording from Meadville, Pennsylvania.
As you can see, what was a three-way call has now
I'm
been
sorry,
split in two.
the number you... I'm sorry, the number you...
Now the question now is everything really back to normal? Well, if everything's back to normal, I should be able to hang up on this, and my phone will ring and I'll get Jane. So I'm going to hang up for about 1 second. Well, obviously everything wasn't completely back to normal.
Now that little problem of not being able to safely disconnect one of the parties turns out to be a big deal later on, because funny mode, as interesting as it was also a hazard during other times. There's a feature called ad infinitum, which I'll demonstrate eventually, which enabled us to build conferences. Well, if funny mode ever got invoked while we were building an ad infinitum conference, it would cause us to lose control of the entire thing, and we'd have to hang up and start the whole thing over. So funny mode was kind of a mixed blessing. Now, here's a suspiciously normal sounding phone call from my house to Les's house. But as you hear it answered, keep in mind that Les and I are not at the same physical location.
Hello.
Hope the recorder enjoyed that.
Yeah, this is, it's amazing. We're in different locations and everything.
The ability to bring an incoming call into an already established conversation did not exist, at least officially, in the 1980s, though it has been offered now. And thus we dubbed this feature Call Pull-In. Here's what it sounds like to actually set that up.
Long distance.
All right, now let me get in funny mode and pull in a call. So stand by. All right, I'm now in funny mode, and of course, as you know, the next thing I dial will go through sort of as if I had you on hold and we're dialing it on the second hypothetical line, except you'll be able to hear. Right now there is another call ringing on one of the lines in our pickup group, and I'm now going to flash and dial the call pickup code.
Hi there.
Well, hi there. I'm now talking to you from the line that was making the incoming call, not from the line that the tape is on. And I've just pulled in a call, and there we have it.
It's more exciting if you have a real third person.
Oh, it certainly is. However, we can let the recorder be the third person. Do you have an RCF number, Les, that I can use?
For me?
Yeah, that would be real convenient.
2346.
All right. This will be a number that is forwarded from another office, so we'll have basically the sound of calling from one office to the other and getting pulled in.
RCF is remote call forwarding. What's about to happen is I'm going to dial a number in Les's Centrex that is permanently call forwarded to Les's home line. That makes the call go downtown and back, giving us the sound of a call going through an ESS tandem or going through call forwarding on ESS. It's the same sound, and when it cuts through, it makes that trunk-to-trunk ESS click. Then we'll hear Les's phone ringing, and I'll use the call pull-in trick to bring the call the tape recorder made into our already existing conversation. We'll, again, both answer in unison, even though we're not in the same location.
Hello. Street. All right, there we go. Two people answering a call, and we're not even in the same place. Honest. Oh, there's another feature I should mention. Because the second call is incoming, and that is, it is the first call on my second hypothetical line, there's no reason why I can't use my three-way calling. Stand by.
Time and temperature around the clock at Weathercron 455-7141. The present temperature is 68 degrees. Eastern Daylight Time.
Now, of course, Les was on the line immediately after I dialed the number. In order to bring the incoming call in, I had to bridge it back. Sounds sort of like normal three-way calling.
Sort of.
Oh, this is interesting. After I dial the number, you, Les, will be snatched away from this call. Would you talk continuously? La 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 la.
Good evening. From layout to assembled units, H&L Electronics is at your service.
I love it. It's neat because, it sounds sort of like you're on an extension at my house, except you survive the flash. I flash and you're still there, but when I complete dialing the number, that's when you get cut out. And you don't come back until I flash to bridge.
To explain why it is that you hear Les while I'm off dialing, but then he disappears as soon as I finish dialing the number, I'll have to play that again and tell you what the structure of the call is.
Hello. Street. All right, there we go. Two people answering a call, and we're not even in the same place. Honest.
At this point in time, my home phone is connected to the center of a call hold bridge. Les is on the A side, and the tape recorder is on the B side. Thanks to funny mode, this bridge, which is never supposed to conference in this condition, is doing it. So center A and B can all hear each other.
Oh, this is interesting. After I dial the number, you, Les, will be snatched away from this call. Would you talk continuously? La 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 la.
You heard me flash, and Les started singing. Now, Les is still on the A side, the tape recorder is still on the B side, but I'm off on a CDPR getting a dial tone. So the tape recorder hears Les, but doesn't hear me. That series of clicks corresponded to my dialing the last digit of the number on three-way calling. As soon as I hit the last digit, a second bridge was brought into the connection. The tape recorder, which had been on the B side of the call hold bridge, is now placed on the A side of this new three-way calling bridge, and the relays are operated so that it is isolated. So Les disappears, and the tape recorder hears silence until I flash my hook again.
Good evening.
At this point, all four parties can hear each other. The tape recorder, Les, the Weathercron time number, and me at my home phone. The structure of the call is as follows. My home phone is connected to the center of the call hold bridge. Les is on the A side of the call hold bridge. On the B side of the call hold bridge is the center of this new three-way calling bridge, which has the tape recorder on the A side and the Weathercron time number on the B side.
From layout to assembled units, H&L Electronics is at your service.
I love it.
Now that I have flashed again, the second bridge that had made that three-way call has been taken out of the circuit, and things are back as they were. Les is on the A side of the call hold bridge, the tape recorder's on the B side, and still both are conferenced in, thanks to funny mode. Now, if you're not following the structure as I'm explaining it, that's really fine. I just wanted to put the explanation in here so that anybody who did want to know what's really going on can find out, but I wouldn't blame you if you didn't follow it. Understanding how it works is kind of high-tech and low-touch, and not like the other phone tapes, really, because it's a big logic puzzle. That said, let's go to another example where, whether you follow it or not, you can actually hear the switch being put through those same hoops, this time from a different perspective than the last call, because the tape recorder will be on the A side of the call hold bridge as we do the same sort of thing.
Alright, you the tape recorder have just called me, and I am going to get in funny mode. Okay, I'm in funny mode. Now I'm going to pull in a call which is ringing in our pickup group at present.
As long as it takes.
And we are all together. Alright, excuse me, I should use my three-way calling a few times here. Oh, when I go, say hello to the tape recorder.
Hello, tape recorder.
Good evening. Thank you for calling the printed circuit headquarters, H&L Electronics. The present temperature...
Let's do that again. Talk continuously so it shows that you are there until I dial the number. Now it's just you and me. And now I bring the singing idiot in. Alright.
Good evening. From Leah.
Okay.
And now let me explain the structure of this one.
Alright, you the tape recorder have just called me.
At this point, the tape recorder's line is connected to my home phone line normally. No bridges are in use yet.
And I am going to get in funny mode.
As soon as I flashed, I got a dial tone from a CDPR, and the tape recorder's line, which is what we're hearing here, was put on the A side of a bridge. I dial the call hold code *9, followed by an unassigned number in my own central office, and as soon as I dial the last digit, my phone line gets put on the center of the bridge, and a call to the AIS with Jane Barbie saying the number you have reached gets put on the B side. The relays in the bridge are operated so that I hear Jane, but the tape recorder remains isolated, and none of this makes much of a noise from the tape recorder's perspective. If I turn up the volume, you can hear a little bit of what's going on. That's all that comes through because the bridge isolates it. However, once I hang up the phone and let it ring, then pick it up again,
Okay, I'm in funny mode.
at this point, there is a bridge in the connection, though there should not be. My phone line is connected to the center, and the tape recorder is on the A side.
Now I'm going to pull in a call which is ringing in our pickup group at present.
Now I'm off on a CDPR, the tape recorder remains on the A side of the bridge, and I'm dialing the call pickup code.
As long as it takes.
And we are all together.
Now Les has been added to the bridge, and he's on the B side, and the conferencing is thanks to funny mode.
Alright, excuse me, I should use my three-way calling a few times here. Talk continuously so it shows that you are there until I dial the number.
While I'm off on a CDPR dialing a number, Les and the tape recorder can still hear each other. The tape recorder is on the A side, Les is on the B side of that call hold bridge that has them conferenced thanks to funny mode. As soon as I dial the last digit of the number, however,
Now it's just you and me.
Les disappears and I take his place, along with this new call that I'm adding on. At this point, the structure of the call is as follows. My phone line is connected to the center of the call hold bridge. The tape recorder is on the A side as before, but on the B side, where Les used to be, is now the center of a second bridge. The A side of the second bridge has Les, and he's isolated. The B side of the second bridge has the new call I'm adding on to Weathercron, and the relays are operated so that we hear Weathercron and we don't hear Les until I flash my hook again.
And now I bring the singing idiot in. Alright,
Good evening. From Leah.
okay.
Now, the reason I'm taking the time to talk about bridges is that these were real pieces of physical hardware, and there were bugs in the software, 3 in particular, which all affected the way complex calls were handled. By a complex call, I mean one that has more than one bridge, such as when you are talking on a 3-way call and someone comes in on your call waiting. At that point, you've got 2 bridges involved. That is a complex call, but compared to what we're going to do in this series, it's a pretty simple call, because we could stack these things up end to end in a chain that was pretty much as long as we wanted. We could even make it so long that you couldn't hear from one end to the other. This was more powerful than the old tandem stacking, because we were not limited by the degradation of transmission that occurred. We could stack these things up and then knock them down like a bunch of dominoes, watching them fall off, which of course meant listening to the sounds they made.
Hi.
The bug that made it possible to stack all that stuff up was called ad infinitum, and in part 3 I'll show you exactly how it works. But what caused the bridges to stay up until the last minute and then all fall down in a sequence like that was another bug, which I'm calling the unwanted bridge bug. And what you've just heard, the phenomenon of the unwanted bridges falling off one by one like a bunch of dominoes, that is the only cool thing that the unwanted bridge bug did for us. Here's what it usually did.
Yeah, now what can I do? Can I do anything from here, or is it just standard?
From here, you can add on something.
And get trapped?
And get trapped.
It's just what I need.
So,
what about a reorder? The reorder traps you, because it...
Try it. Try a local reorder.
It's a local reorder that I've bridged back.
Okay, so you were able to dial it, and then you had to flash to get it conference.
Right.
And now when you flash again, it'll drop.
And it'll sound real weird.
Right.
It won't sound like a normal drop.
And now you're trapped. Any
Like
flash.
Trapped.
Try again.
Trapped.
By trapped, we mean that when he flashes, he doesn't get a recall dial tone, and he's going to have to end up abandoning this call to get back to the other one. The same thing happened to me in part 1.
Hello, it's busy.
Uh-oh.
Hold on. Let me try again. Oh dear, I can't try
Oh, my
again.
goodness.
And here's another manifestation of the same bug.
It even rings me back for nothing.
And what these all have in common is there's an unwanted bridge on a complex connection. On most of the previous examples, it was a matter of a 3-way call being made and then dropped while call hold was in use. The 3-way bridge should be removed at that point, but the switch doesn't always know how to do that. That leaves an unwanted bridge in the connection, and once that's true, the switch is in a condition that it was not anticipated to ever be in. Let's say you've got an important call on hold, and you want to go call a consultant in another central office.
Consultant in an outside office.
If, while you're talking to that consultant, you make a 3-way call,
Oh, mercy. Hello, it's busy.
Uh-oh.
you've got 2 bridges in use, one for call hold, the other for the 3-way call. So far, so good. But when you drop the 3-way call,
Hold on.
the call to the busy signal was disconnected, but the bridge that made the 3-way call is still here. Now we're in a state the switch didn't anticipate, and the result in this case is that when you try to make a 3-way call,
Let me try again. Oh dear, I can't try
Oh, my
again.
goodness.
In fact, all I can do is hang up on you.
Well, that's probably a good move anyway.
the unwanted bridge is stuck between the outgoing trunk to call the consultant and the other bridge, so it'll stay until somebody hangs up. Now, if the consultant is in the same central office or is calling on an incoming call, and you flash to end the 3-way call you made,
And it's busy.
Uh-oh.
flashing made the call to the busy signal drop, as before. But then there was just a moment where that consultant in the office was connected to the unwanted bridge. In that moment, the switch saw that it needed to go, and it took it out. And you can actually hear the difference. Here's the extra bridge not dropping. single click at the end of the flash, here's the bridge dropping. Double click.
And I dropped it, so let me see if I can get another dial tone. Ah, so you're in the Centrex here. Mm-hmm. And I can go back and forth. Very interesting bug.
So there, everything's working right. All because when the three-way call was dropped, the unwanted bridge that had been used to make it found itself connected to a consultant in the central office. And under those conditions, the switch takes it out right away. So forgive me for the complexity here, but I did not write these rules. The way they wrote the software for the switch was that unwanted bridges only get taken out when they find themselves connected to a subscriber line in the office or an incoming trunk. An unwanted bridge between two other bridges stays in, which makes this possible.
Hi there.
Stacking up unused bridges like dominoes was our hobby at the very beginning of this exploration. And back then we didn't know the rules. So one time we made the mistake of putting my phone line in the central office at the bottom of the stack. Here's what happened.
Hello?
Well, okay. That's you?
Yeah.
Okay, so I called you, and now you've got a call waiting beep, and
That's
you're going to start flashing and getting a dial tone. Instead of answering the call waiting, you're going to dial the weather. Then you flash again, get a dial tone, dial the weather. Do that 20 times.
And here we go.
Les is off dialing the weather over and over and over again while he has a call waiting present. We're doing this to build up one of those long stacks of unused bridges to knock them down like dominoes at the very end. Now these calls to the weather eventually are going to hang up and time out, and each one will have an unwanted bridge. The first unwanted bridge that appears is going to be connected to my line, and when the central office sees that, it's going to take it out. I'll then be connected to the next unwanted bridge, but since I'm in the office, the central office is going to take that out too. So the first group of dominoes that we were hoping to keep up until the end is about to fall down any second now. There's the first four. The next ones in the line are still talking to the weather, so they'll drop out 15 seconds from now. The weather works on a 15-second cycle. I think that was about 7. I haven't counted them. And 15 seconds after that started, we'll get the next group of calls that were hung up on by the weather. By the way, after the 20th weather call, Les dials a balance test in another office. That's just a stable call that he puts at the top of the stack to keep it from falling down prematurely. Unfortunately, it is falling down from my end, again because I'm in the office. You know, when Les comes back, he's going to be surprised that he can hear me loudly instead of through the tinny quality that he was expecting.
Hello?
Hello. Now it's interesting. As the calls dropped, the bridges were dropping off from my direction down to you. So perhaps the fact that I'm in the Centrex makes it drop differently.
Well, I'm not sure that it has to do with being in the Centrex.
Maybe being in the office.
Yeah, that makes more sense.
All right. Well, or maybe that maybe I'm calling you. Maybe that's the difference. Because I am calling you.
Well, let me call you.
All right.
Should I call you a star O? I mean, what should, of the many options available, how should I call you? Does it make any difference?
Oh, how about *21?
And why not put a regular outgoing call on source and put you on destination?
Call a balance test, add me on with *21, and then give yourself a beep.
That's what I mean.
Okay.
All right.
Well, we were both right. The reason that the bug didn't happen is because I was in the office, but had I been calling him from another office, it still wouldn't have happened. The strategy that Les just suggested, that is, putting me on a three-way call, did work, and on our next attempt,
Geronimo! I think I need to get it. Now, it has to do with whether or not you're in the office, you've been originated in...
Enough. This kind of stuff drives me crazy. It was fun, but figuring out the logical rules, you folks that actually hack with computers, I don't know how you can stand this kind of stuff. It's so arbitrary. Even learning stuff about computers. Yeesh. This that we've heard here is the closest I've ever come to hacking with computers. I'm a 1970s guy. The computers just don't do much for me. But anyway, there is more outrageous stuff. It actually gets better because there's less technical explanation and more calls being made at one time.
The real problem
At the beginning of part 3, I do a stunt where I make a 5-way call from one phone line, which is actually possible due to a little bit of ad infinitum here and a little bit of funny mode there. Then after that, we really go to town with the ad infinitum bug, which can make 6, 7, 8 party and more conferences. And it just gets more and more ridiculous as we go. Anyway, the 5-way call stunt is next.